We have a special workshop with Jason from Live Better, and we're talking about mindfulness and like the practice of meditation and what that looks like. And this is kind of a two-part session. So we're meeting with Jason now at kind of like the end of the month, and then at the end of February again to kind of like check in and do another meditation together and just like talk about how things are going and what we're noticing. So we're going to talk to Jason about kind of an intro to meditation and kind of some resources and tips and tricks as we kind of go through our practice and however that might look for you. So Jason, thank you for being here. Jason, what are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Jason is a health coach and a trainer and the co-founder of Live Better. So Jason, take it away.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you guys for listening. As we go through this, feel free to throw any questions in the chat. Kelly's going to be kind of monitoring that, but I'll keep my eye on it too. I think I've met several of you or have taught or been introduced, but if we haven't been yet, my name is Jason. I'm the co-founder of Live Better. My business partner and I, Brett, run a health and wellness business that's based in Chicago. We also teach group classes. We've got personal training, and Live Better has really grown into a bigger kind of event business. We've got retreats. We do a lot of corporate wellness and wellness for kids. And so we have kind of turned Live Better into this sort of all-in-one wellness shop. And in doing so, we've started to work with clients on more than just physical health, even though that was kind of the introduction from personal training and group training. And what we found is we've been working with a lot of individual clients, especially on a one-on-one basis, is that mental health has become such a huge part of everyone's health journey, especially over the last 2 years. And we would be remiss to say that training is kind of a fix-all, right? And I think a lot of us try and patch a lot of our health through physical training, especially if you grew up playing sports or if you are really active. We all kind of at times, right, try and out-train a bad diet. We don't prioritize sleep. We don't prioritize breaks. And kind of everyone all the time is telling us to grind harder, hustle harder. And we don't place a big enough emphasis on down-regulating our brain. And when we started teaching and talking about meditation, the entry to that, coming from a corporate background, I actually started as a CPA doing tax consulting before I started training. The entry to that was really talking about a relationship and our relationship with stress and how we manage that, and being isolated, not having access to all of our facilities, obviously having our life kind of turned upside down for the last 2 years has really brought a lot of those issues to the forefront. And so we've started to introduce and teach meditation to our athlete clients, to our executive clients, to the corporate groups we talk to, even down to the 6-year-olds when we go teach in CPS schools or are running kind of mindfulness clinics in elementary schools. And you start to realize that if a 6-year-old can pay attention and do it, adults can do it. And there's a reason why a lot of us have kind of a bad relationship with stress, is because we didn't address that at a young age. Even if you have a physical practice, a lot of us kind of fail to develop a good mental practice. And we like to frame meditation in kind of an interesting way, and to try and remove a lot of the stigma and stereotype around how we think about stress, how we think about meditation. And as we kind of destigmatize the sort of image we have of like clearing our mind and needing to be a monk to make it effective, right? Like we try and give actionable strategies and talk about it in a way where taking one good breath counts as meditation. We're taking 5 minutes away to close your eyes and sort of refocus on your intention or your goal for today counts as meditation. Taking a couple slow bites of food and practicing some presence around what it tastes like and how it makes you feel, that's meditation. And removing this need to feel like we need to make a 30-minute break to close our eyes and empty our mind, and we need to come out in this perfect meditative trance with no stress. Like, it's just not feasible in our kind of on the go lifestyle. So just as kind of an intro to breaking that sort of stereotype and stigma that a lot of people have around meditation. I was just reading through the comments, like a lot of you either have tried it at one point or have a pretty consistent meditation practice, or try and treat running or yoga maybe as your meditation practice. I would encourage you to remove the expectation that it will create this perfect kind of euphoria where we don't feel stress and all of a sudden we're rejuvenated and our mind is clear. I think that meditation is kind of simply the practice of clearing space and taking a step back from charging all the time. And I have to remind myself of that constantly, from running a business to training, where I'm also constantly pushing myself and being pushed by other successful and fun people around me that training for races or doing whatever. And I think that we kind of need the reminder to step back, prioritize ourselves, and then figure out what that looks like for us. So we're going to do, before we kind of talk through some different elements of this, we're going to do a few different types of meditation. So tonight you'll get to walk away with kind of 3 to 4 easy sort of prescriptions. And I'm happy to share this with Kelly and she can send it out after. I'll put it in the chat at the end. But the way you approach meditation will create a different result. So similar to the way you might practice high intensity versus a really easy zone 2 or low heart rate walk, they produce a different output. The way that you frame meditation, the type of meditation you do will also create a different output, whether you're trying to be more productive, whether you're trying to be stress-free, whether you're trying to fall asleep, whether you're trying to just take a midday break, maybe recover from some type of like jarring or kind of anger-inducing incident, right? There are different types of meditations and different ways that you can do that are effective for each of those individual scenarios. So whether you have your camera off or not, it's totally fine. I want you to just find a comfortable space. You can be sitting up in a chair, you can lie down on your back, and just close your eyes. And after you get your eyes closed, I want you to just start to, nice and easy, focus on your breathing. Coming in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you start to settle into a breathing cadence that's comfortable for you, I want you to gently close your mouth and inhale and exhale through your nose. Easy breath in through your nose and easy breath out. Easy breath in. Easy breath out. Big breath in. And big breath out. Last one. And after your next exhale, you just slowly open your eyes and return back to normal breathing, whatever that looks like for you. So that was 90 seconds of just taking a quick break. And the 2 things that you'll notice that we placed an emphasis on were, number 1, closing your eyes, and number 2, eventually trying to prioritize and practice nasal breathing. So not breathing into our mouth. And the reason why we do both of those, number 1 is to close your eyes, is also to shut off a lot of the visual input that we receive throughout the day. So how many things guide us, of course, by our vision, but also visually distract us? TV, computer, phone, iPad, things that are moving in the background, right? If you are in a chaotic visual environment or receiving a stimulus, something else is influencing you to think a specific way, right? Any advertisements you see, any emails you're reading, somebody else is occupying your own headspace. So the first thing is to sort of take control of that space simply by closing your eyes, right? And then we're able to be in our own internal space a little bit easier. And then the second thing we focused on was just simply breathing in and out through your nose. And nasal breathing has become a much bigger, more widely talked about topic in the last few years. There's a couple amazing books that have come out. One is called Breathe by James Nestor. He's a journalist. Has talked about the effects of nasal breathing, and meditation is a big part of that. But even as we go through our day, thinking about breathing through our nose, which is supposed to be our breathing apparatus, has not become the default way we breathe. So a lot of us are mouth breathers, especially at night. And there's a bit of a detriment that can be caused by chronic mouth breathing. So your nose acts not only as a filter, but also as a better way to oxygenate your lungs, to help your brain fire, to help us improve athletic performance, whatever the outcome might be. Learning to nasal breathe as the default way that you move through your day, just from a strictly performance standpoint, we haven't got into any type of like Eastern philosophy about meditation. We haven't talked about clearing the mind yet. This is just simply physiologically the way that we breathe. Our nose should be the primary apparatus for that. And what's interesting, if you think about the way that we sit for the most part, if you are not sitting upright, if you allow your posture to slink over, you can even feel if you put your right hand on your chest and your left hand on your belly, if you sit up nice and straight, it's much easier to take a breath in and out through your nose and take that breath down deeper in your belly. If you collapse into your posture and allow your shoulders to roll forward, you compress down on your belly, and it becomes very easy for us to take a shallow breath through our mouth, and that breath starts to fill up our chest. And just think of the way that you would if you tried to induce yourself to do this, to hyperventilate. But just think if something startles you or scares you, our protective response to do that is to gasp and take a big breath up into our chest. But you don't have any respirators in your traps. So we tend to get overused up there. We get chronically tight up here in our back. And then we become mouth and chest breathers rather than breathing through our nose and our diaphragm, which helps us maintain a much slower rate of breath for more oxygen. So not only is it more efficient just simply for your brain, but when you want to translate that to movement, for my athletes that are watching this, it will also allow you to perform better and recover faster if you can maintain some sense of nasal breathing while you're doing that. So just simply focusing on your posture and the way that you are sitting can also influence the way that you breathe throughout the day, as well as the success of your meditation. Because if we can allow ourselves to get into a calmer space, drop our heart rate, drop our level of stress, it's a little bit easier for us to flip from fight or flight, on the go, trying to manage all of these tasks and to-do items. And we can get into this state where our mind is a little bit more clear. It's much easier to prioritize what we want to get done. We perform better when we go to the gym. We sleep better when we go home at night. There is a huge cascade effect to breathing better more frequently. So in order to do that, we're also going to come back in to a meditation and talk about the first way to just down-regulate our system and flip from fight or flight mode into our parasympathetic nervous system just to get us into a state of down regulation. And this can be helpful whether you want to reduce stress, fall asleep a little bit easier at night, take a quick break. It's a great way to flip that over if you feel like you're kind of constantly in a stressful state. So let's come back to that comfortable seat. I want you to close your eyes again, but this time pay a little more attention to your posture where you're sitting. So I don't want you to force anything. I don't want the seat you're in to feel uncomfortable. And remember that this takes practice. So if you know that you don't have great posture, you're not suddenly going to snap into that position as default. Like, this will take a little bit of practice. But just as much as you can, I want you to sit up a little straighter. And this time, I want you to place your right hand on your chest and your left hand on your belly. And we will focus on filling up your belly this time with air, and immediately start with that nasal breathing. So I want you to take an easy breath in through your nose and an easy breath out through your nose. And as you are doing this, I want you to feel your left hand, the one that's on your belly, kind of rise and fall. And I want you to keep track just via a very easy count of your inhale and your exhale. It doesn't need to be full seconds. It doesn't need to be a specific amount or a particular number. But I want you to breathe in and breathe out at the same rate. So if you count in for 3, I want you to breathe out for 3. And I want you to pay attention to that count as you allow your belly to rise and fall. And as you allow your breath to come in and out through your nose. And as you settle into this meditative position, now we're going to add a specific count to your breath. So I want you to aim to breathe in for 3, take a very gentle pause at the top, and then breathe out for 7. So we make our exhales significantly longer than our inhales. So we breathe in for 3, slow, light, and deep out for 7. In for 3, out for 7. In for 3, out for 7. I want you to go through just one more cycle of that breathing. And after that long exhale, gently open your eyes and just allow your breathing to return to normal. And as you open back up your eyes, you don't need to come off mute or anything, but if you feel more relaxed now and you are by your keyboard, just type whatever into the box. This may or may not happen on the first time. Yeah, ready for a nap is a perfect kind of example. In the yawning, what's interesting is just giving yourself that little break sets off all these triggers in your mind. And it starts to remind you that you actually need rest, because your nervous system flipped over from the one you're trying to drive through the roof from the second you wake up, from the music you listen to the coffee you drink, to the other stimulants you take, to any ways that we try and wake ourselves up. We're all asking for more energy all day long. And then we hit the pillow at night and just expect sleep to come as this like perfect relief of our day. We have to practice sleep. And in order to practice better sleep, we also have to practice getting our body and our brain to downregulate. Even 4 simple cycles of what you just did can flip your nervous system from go mode to parasympathetic rest and relaxation mode. So 4 cycles. You could stretch the pause in between inhale and exhale slightly longer, but you can achieve that state in under a minute. So for all of us that are complaining that we don't have time to take a break, that we don't do this, if you can't take a minute, you got to seriously reprioritize what you're doing throughout the day. To take 1 minute to close your eyes, take a couple breaths just to relax, and then go through 4 cycles of easy inhale, and then let the exhale be longer than 7 seconds. And that's all it takes to flip that over. Now, I also think that there is benefit to allowing and stretching that state out for longer than 4 simple cycles. This is where the consistency of can you meditate for several days in a row, right? And where some of that momentum builds up, because the way that we think about stress is that, oh, we'll just start again tomorrow, right? Oh, I'll start whatever I'm doing on Monday, or I'll get all this out of my system on the weekend, and then Monday will be good, right? It's this reset. Or we like to set New Year's resolutions without considering that what you do on New Year's Eve drastically affects how you wake up New Year's Day. So starting your fitness goals hungover is not really a great or beneficial position to begin. And we don't consider that stress is very cumulative. You bring it home from you at work, it's going to affect your home life. How you handle stress and manage stress in your free time will come in with you to work. And this is why we've had a lot more of these discussions in a corporate setting, because corporations are realizing that they do bear a little bit of the responsibility for employee wellness. They handle the employee's energy to a large extent throughout the day. So they are complicit in driving stress levels, sometimes to levels that we can't really maintain. But it's also our responsibility to control the things that we can control. And one of them is inserting these little breaks throughout the day. So one thing that we're going to do next is kind of talk about some of the ratio of inhale to exhale as we meditate. So you can see that when we want to flip our system from go mode into relaxation mode, that we allow some of our exhales to become longer and slower. So I gave the example of what happens when we're startled or scared. We take this very shallow, very quick inhale. But when you want to relax, what do you do when you take a big relaxing breath? You go, right? It's a longer, slower, deeper release of energy. So not only can we use meditation to slow down, but we could also use it to speed up. So I'm sure if you've taken some type of intense yoga class at some point, somebody has led you through what they would consider fire breathing or energy breathing, where you take in these very sharp inhales to kind of hyperoxygenate the brain. You will wake up doing that. And when we want to flip that, we take those long exhales out. But there's a hidden piece in between there, and that is the pause. And what's interesting when we think about how we handle stress, there's an input, and then we turn around and react to that input. When we say something stupid or react very rashly or flick someone off while we get cut off, or if somebody pisses you off, it's oftentimes a pretty knee-jerk reaction. And we can actually control that response. You can create a delay in your fuse. So if you're somebody who normally suffers from having a pretty short fuse, you get angry very easily. If you tend to lash out, if you say things you know you shouldn't, especially in an environment like work that's not really going to tolerate that. Not that we should treat the people in our private lives any different, but right, there's a little less tolerance for that at work. If you tend to work in a high stress environment, in any type of high performance environment where lead times are short, decisions need to be made quickly, or there is a lot of gravity to decisions, creating a pause in between input and reaction is also extremely important. And long term, that's what meditation can actually help with in a very physical way. It almost slows down some of that response, and not in a bad way to make you slow to respond. It creates a gap between input and your emotional reaction, and it allows you to respond with a little bit more logic. And our emotional brain goes really quick, and our logical brain takes time to catch up. This is a good thing if your life is in danger. This is a bad thing if somebody gives you the wrong change checking out and you think that they are gypping you, right? It's these situational differences where we want to be able to respond thoughtfully, and we want to be able to manage and control our own reaction, because that's all we have. We can't control what happens to us. We can only control how we react to it. And that's where meditation becomes one of the most important tools in your toolbox, because it slows down that irrational emotional response to it and allows us to have a better relationship with how stress comes in and what we give back out. So our third meditation is going to be about creating a little bit longer pause and a longer gap. And this has been one of the most important things to me in my own journey, about starting to create a little bit longer pause and train my brain to become a little bit less reactive. So I want you to come back in that comfortable seat. I want you to close your eyes. And immediately, let's give a count to your breathing. That's in for 3 and out for 3. All through your nose. In for 3, out for 3. On the next breath, I want you to pause at the top, in between your inhale and exhale, and then pause at the bottom, in between your exhale and your inhale. So in for 3, pause for 1, exhale for 3, pause for 1. Get through 1 or 2 cycles like that. And then I want you to increase the pause by 1 second each cycle after that. So we inhale for 3, pause for 2, exhale for 3, pause for 2. And then I want you to stop when you get to 3. So inhale for 3, pause for 3, exhale for 3, pause for 3. And as you continue to breathe like this, this is our box breathing protocol. Box breathing helps us get a better command over the cadence of our breathing. And it creates a very smooth, even tempo to our breathing. But it's got those 2 pauses in between action. Our inhale is an action, and our exhale is an action. But the breath hold in between is a space to pause. It's a space to slow down how we string together action and reaction. And then it's another space to slow down between our reaction and the next action that we take. And in doing so, we can make our reactions to stress more thoughtful. And then we can make the next thing that we do more productive. We started this talk by framing meditation as simply creating space. Taking these pauses in your breathing is creating physical space between your brain and your body doing something. It's a quick way to pause any and all motion in your body, except for your heartbeat. And it's in this space that we can then think about the next action that our body needs to take. So as you continue to breathe like this, you can more carefully consider the way that you are inhaling through your nose, nice and light, slow, and deep, and how you're exhaling through your nose down into your belly, light, slow, and deep. Let's take one more box breath exactly like that. In for 3, pause for 3, exhale for 3, pause for 3, and then gently open back up your eyes. And when you get your eyes back open, I kind of want you to almost immediately assess how you feel. We have been doing a couple meditations in a row, so you're probably a little more relaxed now than you were a few minutes ago. But coming out of that, it's kind of important to assess how our brain and how our body is responding to each one of these. So the first meditation we did was just simply to close our eyes and start to nasal breathe. It was nice and easy. There weren't a lot of directions. The second one, we had those really long exhales. And when I asked, a lot of people said, ready for a nap, yawned, eyes are droopy. That was our nervous system kind of turning off. And then Kelly's comment was, I'm feeling pretty chill and my mind feels clear. That's what box breathing is also supposed to do. It's a little bit more of a mellow kind of flatline feeling. And that's exactly how I will start to approach tasks. So if I have to sit down to do a lot of work, or I want to do something a little bit creative, it's almost kind of like my flow state set, because I don't really want to get tired from doing this. I also don't really want to jazz myself up. I want to kind of keep that middle line going. And so we want strategies for these different types of feelings. Just the same way that you would have some type of response to your training or environmental cues that help you feel creative. If you're some type of artist or writer, or need to think creatively about something, right? We have these different environments. We can also create a different internal environment for the different things that we want. So the very last one that I want to leave you guys with, since everybody usually asks about sleep, and I suck at sleep, so I really like talking about this because it's something that I use on my own. This kind of breathing protocol is slightly more kind of complicated, and unless you've done something like this, you probably haven't held your breath for this long for a while, unless you've just kind of tested it in a pool, which I should give the disclaimer, don't try and do any of this in water. We don't want any shallow water blackouts or accidents to happen. And it is a very real thing, even with pros that do this on a very regular basis. So don't do this in water. Good thing to do actually in your bed, because it is the Bedtime Protocol. You can pick, and I want you just to kind of think back about what felt good to you, where it was it kind of inhales for 2, exhales for 2? Did that seem a little bit short? People who are more experienced can generally draw the length of time out. Once you get pretty good at this, you can take some 10-second inhales and 10-second exhales. That's 3 full breaths a minute. So it's pretty dang slow once you command that much control. So this protocol for bed is a ratio of inhale to exhale of 1 to 2. So maybe start with a 2-second inhale and a 4-second exhale. If that feels a little bit slow or off, you could stretch that to 3 or 6 or 4 or 8 or 5 or 10, whatever's the most comfortable for you. You're going to go through that for 5 cycles. So I'm going to lead you guys through just like a 2-4 for 5 cycles. But the kicker is on the 5th cycle, you're going to perform a sub-maximal breath hold for 15 to 20 seconds. And sub-maximal means that we are not going and holding our breath and getting to 15 seconds and then going, oh, and dying at the end. If you feel what we would call air hunger, if you feel like the inside of you is gasping to take a breath, please do not stretch that. Please do not pass out and fall into your laptop. This is also why obviously we don't do this in water. But I would say if 15 to 20 seconds sounds completely unreasonable after doing this, perform that sub-maximal breath hold, which is basically just like a very light, easy holding of your breath for maybe 10 seconds. And then after you try this a couple times, let it sort of draw out closer to that 15 to 20 second mark. So this is the real like physiological strategy rather than like counting sheep. So we're going to start with just 1 bedtime protocol. That's it. You're going to do this obviously until you feel like you are ready to fall asleep. So I just want to practice this one time so you know what the length of time is. And kind of the point of like making it a little bit complicated is that it gives your brain something to focus on instead of all the stuff that's rattling around in your brain on your to-do list, and you fall asleep because your brain can't think about nothing. You need to give it something to think about as it calms down and then induce sleep. So we'll come back to that spot. I want you to close your eyes. We're going to do this just one time. Just want you to take a couple breaths with your eyes closed. Just settle into your space. One more full round of inhale and exhale. And after this exhale, I want you to breathe in for 2 and out for 4. In for 2, 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 out for 4. And then gently hold your breath. And then just return back to easy breathing. And then gently open back up your eyes. So 2 really quick strategies with that. Number 1 is obviously on the 4th breath, we want to take a pretty big inhale, a very easy exhale, because you know that 15 seconds are coming on the back of that. So if you totally emptied all the air from your lungs, it was probably difficult to stretch that full 15 seconds. And just remember that if your chest and your belly feel like they're starving for air, just breathe. And then on the next one, be a little bit more mindful about that inhale and exhale so that you can stretch that breath hold out a little bit longer. Notice that our exhales are twice as long as our inhales. So by the same strategy, we're trying to get our fight or flight mode flipped over just to relax. And then at the end, we create a ton of space for our body just to totally downregulate. There's no action being taken. There's no inhale or exhale. It's just a long, easy breath hold into very slow, easy breathing. And I would say that once sleep starts to feel like it's coming on, you can just return back to nice, easy breathing, especially maintaining that breath through your nose. And the more often that you practice that, the more easy it will come all throughout the day. And you will find that that also appears overnight. And if that piqued your interest and you're like, I'm a mouth breather and I have no idea what to do about it, there's also another amazing book called The Oxygen Advantage, and by Peter McEwen. And that book also has like Brett actually has gone through their breathing protocol certification. He informed the breath cert that I've actually gone through, and he makes a great product. This sounds bad, but if you've never used it, he makes a mouth tape, which you can get on Amazon for super cheap. It's not like putting a piece of full like duck or masking tape over your mouth. It basically just helps pinch your lips shut. And you will notice that in the morning or when you wake up, if the tape is broken, you know that you've resorted back to mouth breathing. But it's a really nice reminder to just allow your nose to do some of the work, so that we make breathing through your nose kind of a default strategy. So as we were just working through that today, we went through 4 different types of meditation. But the big takeaways for me when I'm kind of was putting this together for myself a while ago was, number 1, the goal is just to create space, right? To relax and to downregulate. Goal number 2 was to breathe better. So to sit up a little taller, to really focus on nasal breathing and the way that we breathe light, slow, and deep rather than shallow and quick, especially through our chest. Goal number 3 is to remove all the expectations that you have of yourself for meditation. There's no mind emptying. There's no immediate sleep. This is a practice. Paul, the first book was called Breathe by James Nestor. And the fourth thing is, after you remove some of those expectations, start to experiment with different types of meditation. Just today, I've been guiding you through a meditation. We've actually got a small kind of like EP on Spotify as a meditation album. And we're going to start to add lots more meditations to that. But I'm sure all of you are familiar with Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer. All of those are guided meditations for the most part. But there also exists things like transcendental meditation, which gives you a mantra, which you repeat. Meditation works as a walk to get out in nature. It's quickly closing your eyes at your desk chair. It's flipping off your Zoom camera in your next meeting and taking 1 minute just to simply reset. It's taking a couple mindful breaths before your next meal. It's slowing yourself down 30 minutes prior to when you usually do when you go to sleep. It's taking the first 5 minutes to not turn your phone on and take a couple deep breaths before you start your day. Any of that kind of space creation is really what meditation's about. And the more frequently you can do that, the more you can make meditation work for you in the way that you need it, not how any book or any app or any other person tells you that you need it. It's a very individual practice, and you know kind of what you need to relax. It's simply about creating the space in order to be able to do that really well. So if you guys have any questions, you can just pop off mute, throw them in the chat. Be happy to share like other things that I've done for meditation or other resources. But thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, Jason. This was so helpful. I think too, like you make this so manageable, because I think so many times we might feel like we have to like set this like specific time to sit down and meditate, and it has to be in this perfect space. And I feel like taking a minute or 90 seconds is so easy to do. And so I appreciate these like the 4 breath techniques that you went through. It's so helpful.
Yeah, we're kind of like, my motto when I'm talking about it is just like anytime, anywhere. I take like I call them tiger snoozes throughout the day, where I really actually just shut my eyes. And without the need to create like 45 minutes for a nap, I'll shut my eyes anywhere in a car, and can't fall asleep, but it puts me into this like deep meditative trance where I feel like as soon as I come out of it, it's totally rejuvenating. For those of you who love naps, it's a great stand-in for a nap. For those of you who can't nap, it basically is a self-solve for that, because the expectation isn't to sleep. It's to take this like very light baseline kind of snooze where you pop right back up from that. So I do that a lot when I'm like waiting on something, or when I only have 20 minutes to take a break. I'll set a timer for 10 minutes on my phone and kind of try and fall asleep. And I find that that's really, really helpful, and has been kind of meditative for me.
Maria, did you have a question or comment?
Hi, Jason. Thank you for the meditation that we just did. It was wonderful. I do want to ask you, I'm writing my dissertation paper, and I'm thinking about bringing different ways to make our staff meetings. I'm a teacher, to make them different, a little more positive and not so draining. And listening to you, I wonder if I could meet with you and consult about ideas that I could bring to our staff meetings. It can be a long staff meeting meditation, but the best ways and length that I can bring it to this type of meetings, that I think it would help. It would be wonderful.
Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to chat with you. Just as like a couple examples, I used to teach at the JW Marriott in the Loop, and we would be brought in for these meeting minutes where corporate groups that were staying at the hotel for corporate conferences would literally bring us in for 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, to kind of kick off that meeting. So after everyone would be introduced, it was a great way to just like level set and bring everyone sort of into the room and allow them to just decompress a little bit, remove any type of anxieties people are walking in with, allows them to be a little more present. instead of starting the meeting with half the people on their phones, everybody's phones were down. And it was this very like somatic, physical start to the meeting, obviously without having people doing squats and push-ups and stuff in business attire. It's a great way, I think, to introduce that. And we've also been actually in the schools we've been working with, the most the most demand we've gotten has actually been from the teachers and from the administrators. So not only have we been going in there and kind of arming the kids with these strategies, but we leave them with a program, and then actually do stuff for the school administration and staff at the same time, because these teachers are coming away stressed. They don't know how to manage that in their classroom. And so they kind of get a little bit of a 2-for-1 deal where we'll teach stuff to the teachers and then also leave them with resources for them to be able to teach and talk to their kids about. And in that way, we get the teacher to relax, we get the classroom to calm down, and then we create better communication and interaction between the teachers and the students, even if they're kindergarten level. And we find that with just like a little tweak in the way we deliver the information, we're all breathing the same way, whether you're 6 or 60. And we find that it works the same way. So I'd be happy to chat with you about that. I'm sure that there are many very simple 2 to 5 minute ways to introduce that. And we can kind of chat through like some buy-in and trying to, not make it so like flimsy and whimsical, is like, hey, this is very productive for this specific reason. Here's why we're doing it. So I'd be happy to chat with you about that.
Great. Thank you. I'll reach out to you.
Perfect. And Jason, we should have done this at the top of the workshop, but do you want to talk just quickly about the organization that you give back to?
Yeah, sorry, I blew straight through that. So the beneficiary of this month's workshop with aSweatLife, I'm on the board of an organization called Dance with Mweni. Many of you may know Bettina Gozo, but she formerly used to live in Chicago. She was a Nike trainer here with me and moved to LA. She's now an Apple Fitness instructor, actually. But she started this organization in Kenya called Dance with Mweni. And it's a nonprofit started by Bettina. And the mission is to serve children with physical and mental disabilities in underserved communities. And she had been visiting Kenya. I was actually scheduled to go to Kenya in April of 2020. And in the worst possible timing, after looking forward to that for like a full year and fundraising for that obviously got canceled. And the organization has kind of moved focus a little bit. Before, it was serving these homes that would take care of children. And in Kenya, children and even adults with disabilities are not treated very well. There's like a lot of stigma around it, even worse than there is in the US, where we don't have a lot of accommodations for that, right? We're separating people into different classrooms and have a hard time reaching out and getting a lot of resources for these kids. So through Bettina's organization, we're now supporting families directly. I think we're supporting 6 to 8 families. And even like a very, very small donation of like $5 to $10 provides an incredible amount of home care. And we will sponsor things like tuition, transportation for the kids, medical care, supplies for schooling, even things like toilet paper and basic care for some of these kids and their families, because they have so little. It's been an awesome way to support people in a group that I never had a ton of experience with. And just to give you some background, the reason why, besides knowing Bettina and being super close with her, that I wanted to get involved with it is that as a coach, I'm always encouraging people to take all of this agency over their own life. And sometimes very unfairly we'll stand over somebody and just stand there until they do what I'm asking of them. And I think sometimes it's really tough to contextualize that there are a lot of people out there who can't do that for themselves and require help. And many of them are in these underserved communities and need extra assistance. So Dance with Mweni is going to support those families and kids individually. We've got a lot of great pictures we can share with the kids and updates on how they're doing. But your donation dollars go straight to those families. And even like a pretty limited amount will provide medical care and supplies for a pretty significant amount of time, just due to how cheap those supplies actually are over in Kenya. You can donate as a one-off. I would love it if you just mention this workshop or my name when you do that. And then there's also an option to be just like a regular monthly donor. You can donate $5 a month, $1 a month, $10 a month. I think whatever, we've all got great causes close to our heart, but obviously not charging for this. So if you guys can find it to help support, I would love that. Bettina would love that. And really appreciate all of you guys being here.